During lunch, a colleague turned to me and showed me a video of a car accident, laughing in a lecherous way. These two are crazy. Driving and having sex at the same time. I became instantly interested when I heard it was a news clip. But when I watched the video, I froze in place. The tattoo on the woman's abdomen in the video was identical to my wife's. "Give me the phone." I snatched the phone from my colleague's hand, staring blankly at the video he had just shown me. In the footage, a Mercedes crashed into a tree by the roadside, the front of the car bursting into flames. A man and a woman escaped the vehicle, frantically shouting for help. Though the camera was shot from across the street, and their faces were blurred out, I could still recognize the familiar tattoo on the woman's lower abdomen with absolute clarity. It was my wife, Anna. That tattoo, she'd gotten it after having our son via C-section. She complained about the scar and I couldn't say no to her, so I agreed to let her get a tattoo of her favorite anime character, Ran Muri, on it. I couldn't believe it. How could this happen? My wife of 6 years, cheating on me? I kept replaying the video, the image of that familiar tattoo stabbing at my heart with each loop. After watching it again and again, I had no choice but to accept the brutal truth. I wasn't mistaken. That was my wife. "What's wrong, George?" My colleague took the phone back. "It's just a news video. It's funny, but you don't need to get so worked up about it." "Yeah, it's ridiculous," I muttered, my head down, a low, strained laugh escaping my lips. He laughed out loud, then added, "It's from the same city, actually. Just half an hour ago. People really know how to have fun these days. George, you seem to like this video a lot, so I've shared it on your social media account." "Thanks. Let's eat. We have work to do this afternoon." I blankly stared at the cheapest fast food on the table, my appetite gone. Why was I working so hard, earning money at all costs? My mind shut down, thoughts scattered, and I couldn't focus. I sat motionless for what felt like ages. "George, are you not answering because you're deep in thought? What's going on?" My colleague shook my body repeatedly until I snapped back to reality, refocusing my eyes on the half-eaten meal in front of me. "It's nothing. You should go back to the company first. I have something else to do." "Okay, I'll go back first." After he left, I got up and walked out of the restaurant. I bought a pack of cigarettes, something I usually wouldn't splurge on, then aimlessly wandered into a public restroom. Inside a stall, I leaned against the wall, lighting up a cigarette. I inhaled deeply, exhaling smoke rings into the still, heavy air. After a long while, I pulled my phone from my pocket. The screen showed a call from "Dear." I hesitated for a moment, but eventually, I dialed the number. "Hello? Hey, George, I was out shopping with my best friend and we had a little car accident. But we're fine. The police are still dealing with the scene, so I'll talk to you later. Bye, George. Love you." Before I could respond, the call ended with the familiar beep of a disconnected line. "Love me?" Hearing those words, the words she always said, which used to feel so comforting, now felt so ironic. I covered my face with both hands, and tears uncontrollably streamed through my fingers, my throat choking with emotion. Slowly, I slid down the wall and collapsed onto the floor. At that moment, I could no longer contain my sorrow. I broke down and sobbed uncontrollably. From the time Anna and I started dating to our marriage, we were the model of a perfect love in the eyes of our friends. We dated for 2 years in high school, spent 4 years apart in different colleges, and after graduation, I threw caution to the wind and moved to the city where she was. Touched by my devotion, she agreed to marry me. Now, we've been married for 6 years, and our son is already 4. She was my first love. I'll never forget the summer night in high school when I confessed to her. In a corner of the schoolyard, the cicadas were making their loud music, the leaves rustled, and the evening breeze shook the shadows on the ground. My heart raced, my palms were sweaty, and with a mix of nervousness and anticipation, I asked, "Anna, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" In that moment, love felt so sacred to me. She smiled brightly, turned her back to me, and skipped forward. "Hey, will you answer me or not?" She turned back, looking at me. "Can you support me for the rest of my life? I eat a lot, you know." "I can. No matter how much you eat, I'll be able to support you. I'm not that much of an eater. If you can't afford it, I'll eat less." "What do you mean? Do you agree or disagree?" She stomped her foot in frustration. "You fool, of course, I'm saying yes." I let out a loud, ecstatic yell and rushed toward Anna, pulling her into a tight embrace. I felt like I must have saved the galaxy in my past life, for fate to treat me so kindly in this one. That night, everything in me changed. I went through a huge transformation, from a boy to a man. I truly became a man. Because I understood what responsibility meant. Responsibility, this word sounds light when spoken, but I understood the weight it carried. It could crush everything. Supporting Anna for the rest of her life, I swore to myself I would do it. From that day forward, I became exceptionally driven. I studied with 120% effort, asking the teacher questions as soon as class ended, and even used bathroom breaks to squeeze in a bit more studying. After class, I would study alone in the hallway for an extra hour. Not only did I push myself, but I also tried to inspire Anna to do the same. However, when we studied together on weekends, it was always me buried in practice problems while she would complain of a headache after only a short while and then go off to read novels. I hoped she would get into a good university, but she would pout and say she didn't need to. After all, I'd promised to support her for life. I could only smile helplessly, but I didn't complain. Even if she wasn't studying, just having her by my side during my studies made me feel incredibly happy. After high school, I was accepted into a prestigious university, while she got into a more ordinary school. On the day I received my admission letter, she cried, asking me to give up my university and attend her school instead. She said she wanted to be with me always. I refused, because I knew that if I went to a better university, I could give her a better life. We had a huge fight. It took a lot of effort on my part to calm her down. I promised to visit her often, and that's when she relented. I majored in computer science, a popular field at the time, rumored to be highly lucrative. I didn't slack off in college either. Like in high school, I worked hard, participated in various academic competitions, and earned many honors. As a result, after graduation, a big company offered me a salary of over $200,000 a year. But despite the temptation of that high salary, I preferred to spend more time with her. So, I turned down the offer and moved to a startup company in the city where Anna was. But I was confident that I could achieve success there as well. I gave up a high-paying job for her, and she was so touched that the very next day, she agreed to marry me. I was equally moved because at that time, I didn't have a car or a house, yet she was still willing to marry me. Perhaps this was what they meant by mutual pursuit. The startup I joined was booming, riding the wave of the internet boom. And because of my outstanding skills, my boss valued me highly. Within less than a year, I was promoted to a salary of $200,000 with stock options. Around this time, I received even better news: Anna was pregnant. I was overjoyed, so happy I could barely contain it. I decided to give her a real home, so I took out a loan and bought a house, putting both our names on the deed. Then, she quit her job to be a full-time housewife. To give her a sense of security, I handed over most of my monthly salary to her. Before the child was born, Anna was my reason to work hard. After the baby arrived, they both became my reason to keep striving. I had always believed my life was perfect. It wasn't until today, when I saw the video of Anna cheating with someone else, that I realized something. Ever since she got pregnant, it was as if she had become a different person. She wasn't as warm or caring as before. She wasn't as gentle or cute anymore. She frequently lost her temper, mocked and ridiculed me, and we fought constantly. At first, I just thought it was pregnancy anxiety and didn't think much of it. After the baby was born, I got used to her rude attitude and didn't even notice anything was wrong anymore. Perhaps, she had already stopped loving me. Otherwise, why would she have cheated? I got home after work, parked my car in the underground garage, rolled down the window, and smoked while zoning out. At that moment, my heart was in turmoil. I had no idea how to face her. It wasn't until 10 o'clock that I finally dragged myself upstairs. When I opened the door, I saw her sitting on the couch watching TV. The moment she saw me, she threw the remote control angrily onto the floor. It made a loud thud, and the batteries scattered. "George! Why are you so late coming back? And you didn't even answer your phone." She yelled at me like a madwoman. In the past, I would have immediately apologized, calmed her down, and admitted my fault with a humble attitude. But now, I couldn't bring myself to treat her the same way anymore. "Work was busy," I replied after a long silence. "Always busy with work. Why don't you just die?" Looking at her hysterical behavior, I suddenly felt so alienated. When did the gentle, sweet girl Anna I knew turn into this? I couldn't figure it out. "Give me your phone." It happens again. Too tired. I felt so exhausted. She was always like this, checking my phone every few days, combing through every chat message. If I'd sent a message to a woman, she would interrogate me, asking who that person was and whether I was close to her. Even if the conversation was just me forwarding a work-related file. She never missed an opportunity to question me, whether it was chat records, a team dinner, or even if I took too long in the bathroom. She'd grab my phone and check. Phone. She yelled again, louder this time. I glanced at her but made no move. I simply loosened my tie and took off my coat, hanging it on the rack. I used to naively think that the reason she was so obsessive about my chats with women was because she cared and feared I might leave her. But now, it seemed more likely that a thief sees everyone as a thief. Because she cheated, she thought I would cheat too. I'm really tired today. I'm going to take a shower, I said coldly, then walked straight to the bathroom. Anna looked at me, stunned, as if she hadn't expected my response to be so indifferent. It was so unlike my usual attitude. She grabbed a pillow from the side and threw it at me, shouting, "George, do you not love me anymore? Do you have another woman outside? Tell me, who is it? Come out here and explain yourself." She ran after me. I turned on the shower, letting the hot water pour over my body. I closed my eyes, tilting my head back, and let the water wash over me, ignoring the furious banging on the door. I didn't move an inch. After a while, the angry shouting stopped, followed by a loud bang as the bedroom door slammed shut. She was probably tired of yelling and had gone back to the bedroom. I didn't care. I changed into my pajamas and quietly opened the door to my son's room. I didn't turn on the lights, just felt my way to his bed. "Dad? Luca, you're still awake?" I crouched down and gently stroked his little head. He pouted, "Mom's yelling again, it's so loud, I can't sleep." "Luca. If Dad and Mom get a divorce, it'll just be the two of us living together from now on, okay?" Luca's eyes lit up. "Really? So you can take me to the beach every day? Mom doesn't like taking me." "Of course." I stared at his little face, gave him a soft kiss. "Go to sleep now, and from now on, I'll take you wherever you want. Good night, Dad." "Good night, Luca." He's still so young, doesn't understand what separation means. I just hope he won't hate me when he grows up. After leaving his room, I quietly grabbed a blanket from the corner of the living room and lay down on the couch. Many times after arguments, I'd end up sleeping on the couch like this. One hand under my head, I stared blankly at the ceiling. My thoughts were a mess today. Only now, when everything was a bit calmer, could I finally think straight about what to do. The divorce was inevitable. I couldn't bear this feeling of being deceived anymore. But Luca. If I divorce Anna, she'll definitely fight for custody of Luca. What if the court gives her custody? I couldn't let that happen. My thoughts kept spiraling. Then I thought back to the video I saw earlier today. From my school uniform to her wedding dress, my first love, why did she cheat on me? Was I not good enough to her? I gave her most of my salary, always tried to please her, and tolerated everything, never turning her down. What could she possibly be dissatisfied with? Although I made a high salary, I rarely spent money on myself, not because I didn't have it, but because, deep down, I felt I shouldn't waste it on myself. I'd be stingy about a $10 fast food meal for myself, but I had no qualms buying Anna thousands of dollars worth of cosmetics. When did she start cheating? Who was the other person? The more I thought about it, the more it hurt. I couldn't sleep the entire night, and when the tears finally reached my ears, I realized I had been crying. I checked the time. It was already past 3 in the morning. By now, she must be asleep, right? I got up, tiptoeing barefoot to the bedroom door, gently twisting the doorknob. Locked? I tried a couple more times, but it wouldn't open. I lit up my phone screen for a bit of light and began rummaging through the TV cabinet. After searching for a long time, I finally found the bedroom key. I unlocked the bedroom door and silently stood by the bedside. I looked at her peaceful sleeping face. This face had given me so much strength in the past, supporting me through dark times. But now. Then I glanced at her phone, charging on the bedside table, hesitating for a moment. She always checks my phone, but I've never looked at hers. But no matter what, I couldn't pretend I didn't want to know the truth. I unplugged her phone and placed her thumb on the fingerprint scanner. The lock clicked open. I quietly left the room and went to the balcony. I first opened WeChat and scrolled through some group messages. Her conversations with others seemed normal. I didn't find anything unusual. Then, I opened social software. The first thing that caught my eye was a chat pinned at the top with a contact labeled Henry, and a message from him. Anna, was today exciting enough? A bit of a surprise, but still quite thrilling, right? By the way, we didn't use protection today, remember to take the pill. I couldn't stop trembling, my body shaking uncontrollably. I squeezed my eyes shut in pain. It took a long time before I could regain my composure and click into their chat history. The earliest messages dated back to 4 years ago. As I read their earliest conversations, a wave of confusion swept over me. The sweet, caring words between them reminded me of how Anna and I used to talk when we were madly in love. It was like she had become a teenage girl again in front of Henry, even though she was a married woman about to turn 30. There were too many messages to read all at once, so I skipped ahead to their most recent conversations. Their chats had become filthy, filled with explicit, shameless remarks. They exchanged countless photos in disgusting poses, along with many videos. Every time I opened a new video, my anger grew. I had never been this furious in my life. I gripped my phone tightly, my fingers turning white, my breath ragged and wild, my chest heaving. That bitch. That damn bitch. At that moment, I wanted to storm into the bedroom and strangle Anna with my bare hands. No man could bear this kind of humiliation. No one. After a long while, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to control my emotions. I forwarded some of their chat logs, along with the disgusting photos and videos they shared, to my phone as evidence of Anna's betrayal. Then I quietly returned her phone to its original place, making sure everything looked untouched, as if nothing had happened, as if I knew nothing. I lay back down on the couch, pulled the blanket over me, and gently closed my eyes. The next morning, I was woken by the sound of Anna making breakfast. I got up, glanced at her, and went to the bathroom to freshen up. I hadn't slept a wink the entire night. I had spent the night in a daze, caught between sleep and wakefulness. When I came out after brushing my teeth, I saw her sitting with Luca at the breakfast table. There was nothing for me. I sighed inwardly, a complex mix of emotions flooding over me. In the past, I would have apologized to her, won back her forgiveness, and only then would she have shown me a bit of affection. No matter who was right or wrong, I always ended up being the one to lower my head. If I tried to reason with her, she would accuse me of changing, of not comforting her anymore, of not loving her. So, this time, Anna, do you still want me to bow down? No way. Luca, finish up, let's go to kindergarten, she said as she wiped his mouth. But Daddy hasn't eaten yet. Without even looking at me, Anna replied, don't worry about your dad. Let's go, and she pulled Luca out of the door and down the stairs. Goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye, Luca. I waved at my son too. After they left, I made something to eat for myself in the kitchen. By the time I finished, it was almost 9 o'clock. I picked up my phone and called my boss. Hello, Mr. Robert, I'd like to take a month off. What's going on, George? Why such a long leave? His voice was full of concern. My marriage is falling apart. I need to take time off to get a divorce and rest for a while. Well, take the time you need. I'll give you a month and a half. Focus on yourself and your situation. I won't interfere with your personal matters. Just know the company needs you, and we'll be here when you're ready to return. Thank you, Mr. Robert. After hanging up, the silence in the living room seemed almost suffocating. There was no time for sentimentality now. I needed to go to the law firm immediately to consult with a lawyer who specialized in family law. No matter what, I had to secure custody of my son. Lawyer, I want to know, in a case like this, how will the court rule? I asked, nervously, sitting across from the lawyer. Will my son be awarded to me? Without hesitation, the lawyer replied, Mr. George, you already have evidence of your wife's infidelity, and she's a stay-at-home wife without the ability to care for the child. The court won't award custody to her. If you're aiming for her not to get any of the marital property, that could be more challenging. But if you're only seeking custody, I can say with 100% certainty that you will get it. Are you sure? I'm sure. The lawyer pushed his glasses up confidently. Is that so? I finally let out a sigh of relief. Good, that's good. Mr. George, would you like me to file for divorce on your behalf? Well, not for now, I paused for a moment and then said, first write me a formal lawyer's letter, and then prepare a divorce agreement. No, prepare 5 copies. After leaving the law firm, my nerves finally relaxed a bit. At least I no longer had to worry about fighting for my son's custody. In the lobby downstairs, I gazed through the glass window at the bustling crowd outside. I was suddenly surprised by how quickly I had accepted the fact of my wife's betrayal and immediately made the decision to divorce. But I was never one to be indecisive. As the saying goes, he who hesitates is lost. I had never betrayed this relationship. She was the one who hurt me. I had never broken my promises. She was the one who chose to give up. I had nothing to feel guilty about. I drove to my son's kindergarten. Usually, it was Anna who picked him up and dropped him off, and I rarely had the time to do so. Teacher Daisy, I knocked softly on the door of the office on the second floor, peeking my head inside to address the girl who was buried in paperwork. You are. She looked up at me, confused. After a moment, her eyes lit up. Oh, you're Luca's dad. Mr. George, hello, please come in. I often asked her about my son's progress at school through social media, so although we didn't meet often, we were somewhat familiar with each other. No, I'm here to pick up Luca. He's been asking to go to the beach, and I have time today, the weather is great, so I'm taking him, I explained. Oh, I see. Let me take you to him, she said, and I followed her down to the activity room. Luca was playing with blocks. Teacher Daisy patted him on the shoulder, then pointed toward me by the window. I waved at him, and the little guy immediately shouted, "Daddy," and ran toward me. "Daddy, what are you doing here? Are you really going to take me to the beach?" he asked, his face lighting up. Really? Yay. I'm going to bury myself in the sand pit. Okay, Daddy will help you. Daddy, I ate a lot of food for lunch. I'm awesome, right? Awesome, baby, you're the best. I glanced at Luca in the passenger seat and smiled. Daddy, you haven't taken me out to play in a long time. Yeah. My phone vibrated incessantly, it was Anna calling. I looked over at Luca, who was focused on building his castle, and quietly stepped aside to answer the call. Hello? Teacher Daisy said you picked up Luca at noon today? Yeah. Then why didn't you let me know in advance? Let's get a divorce. What? After a brief silence, her anger exploded. You're divorcing me because of what happened yesterday? I knew it. All men are the same. George, are you seeing someone else? You heartless. How about Henry? Who's really seeing someone else? Who's been cheating? I shouted angrily, cutting her off. The rage on the other end of the line immediately ceased. Seeing Luca look at me with confusion, I did my best to calm myself and said, "The divorce agreement are ready. Wait for me to come back." I hung up immediately, not giving her a chance to respond. After taking a moment to compose myself, I walked back to Luca, crouching down with a forced smile. Did you have fun today, Luca? Yeah, he nodded enthusiastically. Then let's leave it here for today, okay? We'll come back next time. Okay. I was about to pick him up to leave when he suddenly shouted, "Daddy, wait a second." I stopped and looked at him, puzzled. Luca took a step back, then leaped forward, stomping on the small sandcastle he had made, grinning triumphantly and asking if he was awesome. Awesome, I answered, laughing along with him. By the time I returned home, it was already dark. I pushed open the living room door and saw a chaotic scene, throw pillows from the couch scattered on the floor, and broken glass everywhere. It was clear that Anna had vented her emotions in the bedroom not long ago. I walked straight to the bedroom door, pushed it open, and saw her lying on the bed. She sat up, looking at me, her hair disheveled, tears staining her face. "George, I was wrong. I'm sorry, it's all my fault," she said. "Words are useless. Let's get a divorce," I said coldly, taking the divorce papers from my briefcase and handing them to her. "Sign here, and we'll go to court tomorrow for the divorce certificate." "No." She rushed forward, grabbed the divorce papers, and tore them into pieces. "I don't want a divorce, George. I was wrong. I'll never make the same mistake again. Please forgive me." Seeing her pleading desperately, I felt nothing but irony. I forcefully threw the printed photos and chat logs at her. "Forgive you? Why should I forgive you, huh? I'm asking you, why should I?" She picked up the photos and went berserk, screaming, "You looked at my phone? How dare you look at my phone? And what if I did? You always check my phone, don't you? So now you can't accept it when I look at yours? If I hadn't, I wouldn't have known you were playing around with another man. It's disgusting." She suddenly lowered her head, laughing in a sinister way, then looked at me with a venomous glare. "I cheated? It's all your fault. It's all your fault. My fault? I laughed bitterly in anger. You're saying it's all my fault? Yes, it's your fault. Why did you have to get into such a good university? Why did you have to get such a good job? I froze, confused. It was all for you. Why did I work so hard? Why did I push myself so much? It was because I promised I would take care of you for the rest of my life. For me? You're too far away from me. We are too far apart. You went to an elite school, and I went to an ordinary school. You make hundreds of thousands a year, but I'm just a housewife. Your world is so big, so rich, and I'm nothing. I don't need you to work so hard, I would rather you be poor, would rather your world be smaller, but I'm everything to you. She looked at me, tears slowly streaming down her cheeks. Your world is too big, and you care too little about me. Many times, I stay at home alone, looking at the empty room, and my heart is cold and scared. Loneliness, do you know what loneliness feels like? I need someone to accompany me, someone to care about me, and someone to protect me. But you only care about work. You don't understand how uncomfortable it is to stay on the balcony alone for an afternoon, you don't understand at all. Is this the reason you cheated? I closed my eyes in pain. You've gone mad. Was I not caring enough for her? For a moment, I found myself wavering inside. Maybe I shouldn't have let her be a stay-at-home wife after all. Yes, I'm crazy. Let's divorce. She suddenly seemed to realize something, jumping off the bed and rushing toward the living room, shouting, "Where's our son? Where's Luca? Stop yelling. Luca is with a friend of mine. I won't let you see him until we sort this out." She turned back from the living room. "He has to be with me." "Not going to happen. You can't take our son away," I said as I sat down and pulled a new divorce agreement out of my bag and handed it to her. "The house is yours, the car is yours, and we will split the savings equally, but our son will still stay with me." "George, you must be dreaming. I gave birth to him, he has to stay with me. I'm his mother." She reached for my face and lunged at me. I dodged quickly, letting her fall onto the bed. "You're the one who cheated. You're the one who betrayed our relationship, do you understand? What right do you have to ask for our son? The assets are all mine. You won't get a single cent. The child stays with me." She grabbed my hair. I looked at her in disbelief, not able to comprehend that she would make such demands. I slapped her face hard and yelled, "You're the one who cheated. I gave you my youth, George. You must not take a penny. Our son must stay with me." She collapsed onto the bed, covering her face and howling. "Fine, the money is yours, but our son stays with me." "No. Our son stays with me. Does she think I'm a fool? She cheated, and now she doesn't want me to have any property, nor our son. You've really lost it." I stood up, staring at her, slightly stunned. "If that's how it is, we'll see each other in court." The woman in front of me felt completely unfamiliar. It was as if I had never known her. I didn't understand how this woman, whom I had shared a bed with for years, could be so greedy, like a beast that devours anyone in its path. I had earned everything in this house. I had already agreed to give her the house, the car, and half the savings, just for the sake of the years we had spent together. But she wasn't satisfied. She wouldn't even let me have our son. Did she not realize that my initial offer, the house, the car, half the savings, was already a generous gesture, made only because of the years we spent together? And what was this nonsense about her giving me her youth? Wasn't my youth sacrificed too? Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. "We'll see each other in court," I said coldly, my heart now completely hardened toward her. The woman I had once considered the most precious person in the world now disgusted me. I quickly left the suffocating place. As I walked downstairs, I called my lawyer to arrange everything for the court proceedings. She wanted me to leave with nothing? In her dreams. If she was going to be this greedy, let the court decide who leaves with nothing. Just pray she won't regret it later. I drove straight to my friend's house. "Back already?" My friend opened the door. "The two kids played all evening, and they're both out cold now. Do you want to go check on them?" "Sure." I walked over to the bed, glanced at my friend's son, then focused on my own child, letting out a small sigh. I'm glad I didn't bring him back. If he had seen what happened between me and Anna, I can't even imagine the kind of psychological scar it would leave on him. I gently stroked my son's forehead, a small smile involuntarily tugging at my lips. I left the room, glancing one last time at his peaceful sleeping face before gently closing the door. "Sorry to bother you again. You're the only friend I have with kids," I said apologetically to my friend as I sat on the couch. "Luca may need to stay here a little longer. I'm in a bad way." "It's fine. My son's been wanting a little brother for ages. He got his wish today." "You have no idea how wild they were just now," my friend replied, chuckling. "Really?" I rubbed my temples. "George, you..." My friend trailed off, then abruptly changed the subject. "Come on, let's go have a drink." "No, your wife always complains about you drinking, and you have to work tomorrow." "Work? No. I have a day off tomorrow. My wife is already asleep. And I just told her about it and she approved it. Tomorrow's Saturday." "I've really lost track of the days," I said, glancing at him. At this moment, I really needed something to numb my tense nerves. "What are you waiting for?" "Let's go," he urged. "Okay, let's go." With the help of money, the lawyer moved quickly, and before long, the day of the trial arrived. In the days leading up to it, Anna bombarded me with calls, insisting she wanted to see our son. I refused every time. I wouldn't give her any opportunity to take advantage. In the courtroom, when I walked in holding Luca, Anna screamed as though she had lost her mind. "Luca, Mommy's here." Luca, seeing his mother cry, started crying too, wanting to go to her. But I held him tightly in my arms. Why couldn't he go to his mom? I'm sure he couldn't understand the reason. "George, give me our son," she screamed, trying to climb over the barricade, but the court officers stopped her. The trial began. My lawyer was sharp, even a bit aggressive, throwing out question after question, making everyone in the room pause and think. He passionately presented the evidence of Anna's affair, skillfully arguing every point in my favor. On the other hand, Anna's lawyer was ineffective. He mostly stayed silent, and when he did speak, his words often irritated the judge, pushing the decision in my favor. I had arranged for Anna's lawyer myself. He was a well-known rookie in the industry, he'd take the money, but would do nothing. He loved to boast about his abilities before the trial, claiming he'd win, but once paid, he would play the fool, making no effort for his client. For him, this was just an easy paycheck, one he'd gladly take for a case with little chance of success. My lawyer was strong, and she had connections to the judge, who was tied to my company's legal department in more ways than one. I would not let anything interfere with the trial, so I spared no effort to ensure everything went smoothly. The judge slammed the gavel down hard. "The court has made the following ruling. Ms. Anna will leave with nothing. As Ms. Anna is deemed incapable of raising Luca, custody of Luca is granted to Mr. George. The decision is effective immediately. Court is adjourned." "No!" Anna screamed, grabbing her lawyer's sleeve desperately, "Didn't you say the child would be given to me?" The lawyer ignored her, walking away, and Anna turned to me, pleading, "George, I don't want the house or the car anymore. Just give me our son back. Please, I beg you." Hearing her desperate cries from behind me, I didn't look back. I simply walked out of the courtroom, holding my son. If only she had known this was coming, why did she have to hurt me like that? Now, she had nothing,